only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for attending. I guess this is our inaugural Brown Bag webinar series, or session. This is a series that we're really excited about here at Earthshift. We've taken it as an opportunity to really share knowledge within different aspects of sustainability across a broad range of different topics. So we'll be running these sessions weekly, just about weekly for the rest of the year here, and we actually now have already started to schedule some out into the new year as well. We'll be recording these sessions going forward, so if there are some that you're unable to attend, you can always come back to our website and pick up the recorded version at that time. I'm really happy today to introduce Tad Radzinski from Sustainable Solutions. Tad's going to be walking us through really talking about sustainable product development, which I think is critical to a lot of folks, what a lot of folks are thinking about right now. A couple logistics before I hand it over to Tad. First, if you have questions, and we highly encourage questions, on the GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar panel here on the left-hand side of your screen, if you're seeing that, there is a little area where you can type in questions. At the end of the session, we've got some time built in to handle those questions, and we'll go through and answer those questions. We'll try to get to as many of them as we can. Those that we can't, we can try to, we'll answer those offline as well. If anyone's having any technical difficulties, can't hear things, anything of that nature, there is below the questions tab, there is a chat box there as well. Feel free to send me a chat message, and I will I'll try to help you through any of technical issues that you may have. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to you, Tad, and let's talk about sustainable product development.
All right, great. Thank you, Jim. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today, and I appreciate the introduction. I do want to thank everybody that's on the phone here. This is something that's I'm really pretty passionate about, and we've done a lot of work with this. Not only have we helped multiple companies develop sustainable product development programs within their organization, I also teach in the Masters of Sustainable Engineering program at Villanova University, and I've put together a new class there called Advanced Lifecycle Assessment and Introduction to Sustainable Product Development. And we're running this for the second time. We taught it last year, and we're teaching it again this year, and we've got about, I don't know, 12 or 15 students in the class. And there's a huge need for this. And one thing, if you think about it, I'm sure that many of the people on the phone here, since you have an interest in life cycle assessment, whether you're a practitioner or you just know about it, you probably have some kind of a technical background or science background. And I know for a fact that the majority of us have never been taught to think about the environment or health effects of products, you know, when we went to college or even in our advanced degrees. So this is why we've actually established this program at Villanova, and we've been really pushing this and integrating this into a lot of the companies we work with. So I hope you get some good information out of this, and we're going to just roll through this. Like Jim said, we'll have some questions at the end, so save your questions, type them into the question box, and we'll be glad to answer them. And we'll get rolling here. I did write a white paper on this, and Jim, if you're interested, I can forward that along to you at some point if people would like to read more about this topic. We can do that at the end here.
Yeah, that'd be great, Tad, and we can place it with the recorded version of this as well, so that'd be awesome.
Okay, sounds excellent. Okay, so let's get started, and when we look at this photograph here, actually if we were in the room I'd be able to have you respond right away, but if you look at this, you know, what do these products have in common here is the big question. You can see we have a myriad of products. There's all kinds of various vintage cell phones. We've got computer monitors. We've got batteries and cable and wind turbines, pipe insulation, all kinds of different things. So in reality, what we have here, some people sometimes say, well, there's plastics in every one of them, and that's very true. But also what we really have in these products is what we call rare earth elements. And They're actually very limited supply elements as far as different materials like tantalum and niobium and different things like that that are only found in limited places on the Earth, only economically recoverable in limited places. However, if you think about it, these elements are really driving many of our advanced technologies right now. When you look at the fact that we, on the top of the screen here, we have LED lights, and most of the changes we're making for energy efficiency in our buildings is to use LEDs. We also show wind turbines, and if we're ever going to reduce our dependence on fossil fuels, wind is a major strategy for that, and these wind turbines actually integrate a lot of these rare earth elements. Same thing with cell phones, advanced battery technologies, fuel cells, you name it, even insulation and pigments that go into paint. So important thing to note here is these resources are really limited, and we don't design our products very well for recovery of these in the future. In fact, some of these there's going to be, there's predicted resource limitations that can come really quickly within, well within my lifetime, and definitely within the next 20 to 30 years, we might be seeing shortages of some of these critical resources. I always love showing this image. This is actually the Earth, and we're all so busy living on it, and doing our jobs and working feverishly to stay atop in our business or keep up with our family, or doing things with our kids, that we don't realize we're really living in a closed system that is really limited in the amount of materials that we can actually recover and use within the planet. Since we only have one Earth, we can't make additional resources. And the one thing that is really interesting to me, I'm an engineer, so I really look at everything from a system basis. And the Earth is really technically a closed system that is comprised of many incredibly designed systems. If we really think about this, the Earth, I'm not sure who designed it, but whoever did it was really a great engineer, because this system is not only solar powered, but it provides life support for every one of us and all species on the planet. And it does have all the resources that we need, to live the lives we live now. And the other important thing, if you look at the Earth, it's actually a good teacher for thinking about sustainable product design. There's, over the many years of evolution, the planet has basically developed these systems that create clean air, clean water. If you look at a forest, for example, forest ecosystem essentially generates no waste. All the biomass and whatnot that basically falls into a forest becomes food for trees and insects and all kinds of other things. So really great opportunity if we're thinking about sustainable product development to understand, number one, all resources are limited, and number two, there's some pretty cool things we can learn if we want to make products greener, more sustainable, improved, whatever word we want to use. I love showing this photo also. This is actually an image, and one of the points of this image is really to illustrate how we as a society, at least in the developed world, where many of us that are on the phone here live really good lives. We have unbelievable material wealth. Basically all the materials you see here are manufactured out of fossil fuels or non-renewable resources. So many of the plastics here, but also in many of these products there are other limited resources and whatnot. So just think about the fact that we have roughly 1.8, 1.9 billion of us live lives like this, and I'm sure most of you on the phone can relate to a lot of these products. I've had kids, and now I have little nieces and nephews, and I've had a little Tykes pool. I have all these balls. I mean, most of these things I've seen or had in my possession at one time. So if we know that there's another 3 billion people in the developing world that want to live like this, how are we going to do that when we basically don't really design these products for use, recovery, recycling? Most of this stuff you see here, the majority of it is going to be disposed of and will provide no resources in return. It gets used once and disposed of. We all, excuse me, we all know that our present system is really take, make, waste. We extract materials out of the earth, and we process them, we then manufacture products, we use the product, we throw it away, and we know that there's inputs into every step in the process: energy and labor, raw materials, all kinds of different things, and then emissions, waste, all kinds of different things come out of the box. We also know that each step in this process is going to be transportation, and there's additional impacts created there. So if you think about it, we're looking at a cradle-to-grave system, which is the majority of our system, which is not a very good system at all. I mean, you can just look at the pictures on the right here of how our society operates right now. And, the fact that we have a lot of developing countries in the world that are aspiring and industrializing like us to live like us, they're definitely making the same mistakes we are. When you have a disposable society, you're basically throwing away many valuable resources, and this is something that's going to continue to increase, because right now we're up to about 7.1 plus billion people and growing. So what I really see here, and actually I see a huge opportunity. I tell this to my students, I tell this to a lot of the companies we work with. There's huge opportunity here for innovation, huge opportunity in this for redesign of products. And if I was able to be live with you right now, I'd be holding up my cell phone, which is a smartphone, and I would be basically telling you that I really love my phone. It's an amazing piece of technology. I can get emails, I can talk on the phone, I can take photographs, I could get on the internet, I can FaceTime with my daughter when I'm traveling. Just amazing. It's just like being in the world of the Jetsons, if any of you are old enough to remember that show. And the problem is that this phone is horribly designed. I mean, it's designed for disposal. It's not designed for repair easily. It's not designed for disassembly, not designed for reuse. So what I see here is just a huge opportunity. And if you think about the evolution of the cell phone, just imagine how many billions of these things are now, the majority of the materials are disposed of and wasted. And like I said earlier, there's a lot of rare earth elements that exist in these products that are not recoverable or easily recoverable. So, and this applies to everything. It's not just phones. I'm not just picking on phones, but computers, another huge opportunity. Back when I worked at EPA, we were actively working with the computer manufacturers to get them to start redesigning their products so the materials could easily be separated, easily recovered, easily reused. And that was back in the early 2000s when we were doing this. And we still are at a point where most computer manufacturers have not designed their computers to easily be disassembled and recycled. There are amazing amounts of recycling going on with electronics, but there's still a large majority of materials that are not recoverable in their current form and end up getting downgraded or downcycled. And we can think about just about every product out there that we use. The best designed product that I know of that's designed for closed loop recovery is actually automotive batteries. I've worked in several of those manufacturing plants, and those the state-of-the-art companies can actually recover the lead, the acid, the polypropylene, and turn them back into new batteries with no problem at a very high recycling rate and recovery rate. So I keep mentioning these rare earth elements, and if you look at these are some of the different materials. This isn't a complete list. If you're interested in this, you can go to the USGS Mineral Commodity Summary, and you can actually learn more about these. And the thing is, there's risk with these because things like germanium or niobium, like I said, the reserves are located in only one country in most cases. And if you look here for like europium, a lot of that material is used in LEDs and electronic screens, and China has a good percentage of that. Tantalum, same thing, comes in areas where there's conflict zones. So for any manufacturers that are on the phone, if you're having to comply with Dodd-Frank right now, you've got to look at where you're getting these materials for, and you're going to have to report to the U.S. government on where you're getting certain minerals and how you're using them in your products. So the point is, most of these materials have limited reserves that are known, and I should say economically recoverable, because if you think about it, here in the United States, we felt that we were actually importing much of our fossil fuels, most of our oil is imported and whatnot, but now that we have these great new technologies like fracking, and again, I don't know if that's great or not, but we do have the ability now to recover materials and that were not once economically recoverable. So based on the current research, these are some of the present estimates of how long the reserves last. And I can tell you that I expect to be alive 11 years from now. So, will we really see a limited resource shortage on antimony? Maybe. Or even 50 years. I don't know if I'll be here in 50 years, but, for rhenium, if, we really need that and there's really only an estimated availability of about 50 more years, that's pretty scary. So same thing with indium. A lot of these are very short time frame if these estimates are accurate. So just keep that in mind, and you can think about not only these rare earth elements, but we can also start thinking about all the raw materials that go into the products we make. So what we really start to do, and this is what I teach on a daily basis, is using life cycle thinking. The average person in the U.S. does not think about life cycle. You're going to have a specialized group, like probably many people on this phone right now, that have practiced life cycle assessment or have learned about it in college. But your average person that goes to a Walmart or a grocery store or whatever has no clue what this means or how to go about it. And the even scarier thing is we have a lot of smart people in research and development and operations and new product design teams that are designing products that don't understand this at all. So we've really been focusing heavily on training people like this. To date, we've trained about 400 or 500 new product development teams on life cycle thinking, and using that thinking along with sustainability thinking to design and manufacture better or lower impact products. And understanding those life cycle stages is really important. So, you hear the buzzwords thrown out all the time about sustainability, and how does SPD, or what I'm going to be talking about, sustainable product development, really fit into the triple bottom line? Well, if you think about risk and you think about the fact that some of these electronics companies, let's pick on the phone again, if they're heavily reliant on tantalum or niobium or these rare earth elements for these phones to work well, then what happens if the cost of those materials go up really high, or suddenly there's a major conflict in one of those areas where there's a war or there's sanctions, and suddenly those materials are really hard to get? The sustainability of the organization that relies on them is in jeopardy, and it will have a major effect on the economics of the organization. It could have an effect on the environment. It can have a major effect on society. So SPD is definitely connected to the triple bottom line when we really think about how we can make more sustainable organizations. And for most of you, triple bottom line is talking about people, planet, and profit, and how we get these three areas of an organizational performance to work together to create truly sustainable organizations. So there's a lot of things to think about in sustainability, and it's important to note also that sustainability requires short-term thinking, but also planning and lots of long-term thinking. So that's a very important aspect in sustainable product development as well. Product stewardship, I definitely like to tell people about this, because product stewardship, there's a huge movement right now with programs on extended producer responsibility. For any of you that are on the phone here that might be working in the building products world, LEED version 4 now has extended producer responsibility credits in there. We know that if you're an electronics manufacturer, a lot of states have adopted extended producer responsibility programs where these folks are starting to become responsible for the end of life of these materials. And really, manufacturers have the most responsibility in this. And in our current economic system, we all buy these products, and then we become responsible for them. If you think about the 3, 4, or 5 cell phones that are in a cabinet somewhere in your house, or all the computers sitting in your basement because you don't know what to do with them, we are suddenly responsible for these products. And what you really have sitting there is valuable resources that are going to end up mostly going to waste if not properly recycled. I know in Pennsylvania they just actually instituted in January of this year, a ban on disposing of electronics in landfills. And now it's really amazing how many televisions and computers and different things I see sitting on the curbs with yellow stickers on them because they no longer get taken and thrown away. Still, people don't know what to do with them. They'll sit there for a long time, and now we're starting to see more illegal dumping and things like that going on. So the system really needs to be improved. And if by doing sustainable product development in the first place, using life cycle thinking and integrating sustainability into product design, we can really change the system, and that's the whole goal here. Ultimately, I'm hopeful that we can get to what we call a circular economy or a closed-loop economy, where products are designed from the beginning to be, at the end of life, recovered, reused, recycled, and basically manufactured back into themselves or some equal value, equal quality product. It's not a good thing to take a plastic bottle and downgrade it into something that will get disposed of anyway. Ideally, if we're going to be dealing with plastic bottles, the 50 billion of them that we have to deal with alone in the United States, with only a 28% recycling rate, we really want those materials maybe to come back as containers again, or if they're going to go into something, maybe being converted into something that lasts a long time, like clothing. We see PET can be recycled into polar fleece and things like that. So the circular economy there's just a huge opportunity. The majority of our products are disposable. The majority of them are not designed for this. So again, huge opportunity for all the young people that I work with, everybody on this phone. If you're in this business of manufacturing or whatever, really need to start changing the system. So let's just talk a little bit about product life cycle. Life cycle assessment, as most of us know, is looking at the impacts of a product throughout the entire life cycle of the product. Includes evaluation of how we extract raw materials, how we process those materials, how we turn those materials into products, how they get used, and then what happens to them at the end of life. In the ideal world, right now it's all cradle to grave, so it's a linear process where most of those materials end up being disposed of. But if we could go circular and start to collect those raw materials and turn them back into equal value products, that would be an excellent thing to do. The great thing about life cycle assessment, and like I said, talking to a group of folks from Earthshift that are connected to Earthshift, I'm sure this is not new news to you. But when you're talking to a person in research and development who's never seen this, it's really important to let them know that there are ways to evaluate various products. There's ways you can do comparisons, and this is actually just an example out of the Bees software. If we wanted to look at building products, we can evaluate cedar siding compared to brick, compared to fiber cement or vinyl siding. And we know there's a lot of different categories of impact we can evaluate. And this is based on the Bees methodology. So you can see these things are weighted, and global warming gets a lot of weight. But you can see here cedar siding has lower impacts compared to brick, at least based on the data that is contained in Bees. So it's the best data we have, but it gives us some scientific understanding of what are these impacts, where do they happen. So when you're changing your processes within your company, or you're training a bunch of new product development people, you need to let them know, what does this mean? How can these things be evaluated? What's the effect on our products? The other thing that's great about LCA, as we all know, is we can look at a lot of different products and do side-by-side comparison. In this particular case, we actually did some analysis of looking at various pigments and trying to understand which pigment was the most impactful and what was driving that impact. Was it the metals in the pigment, or was it some other chemicals? And by having this information, new product development teams could actually start to say, wow, product A looks pretty impactful in many of these categories. Maybe we want to start thinking about product D. If you look at the purple's lower impact. Maybe that would work better in our product, and can we redesign that, to minimize the impacts of this product over time? We also have to be aware of where the impacts occur. If you go onto Apple's website, you can basically grab some information here on the iPad, and they've done a nice job of illustrating where the impacts occur within their within the life cycle. So they show that manufacturing is about 38% of the overall life cycle impacts, and I believe this is specifically related to greenhouse gases or CO2 emissions. 5% happens in transportation, but look where the big impact is. It's in product use. So if we're going to be doing sustainable product design, not only do we want to think about where we can recover materials, but how can we minimize the impact in the stage that has the highest impact? So in this particular case, if I was a designer at Apple, I'd be looking at how can I make this piece of equipment more energy efficient. And it's pretty interesting how Apple does show over time how they've done that. If any of you that are older on the phone, if you remember these, and I actually started using Apples that were even funkier than this many moons ago, and where we are today, and this isn't even today, this is 2009, but you can see a significant reduction in the impact of these different products. So this is happening somewhat in the world, but it's not happening at a scale that I think is rapid enough. There's not enough people that are really thinking about this. This is one company out of many that doesn't even think about these things. And then you can also basically look at, they actually do give us some information on where the impacts happen within the product. But imagine the value of this information to a new product development team right in the beginning of the design process. Because the thing we know is a new product development team is going to innovate around existing products. They rarely are designing something from the ground up totally new. There are obviously some companies out there, but the majority of companies are improving it or changing or advancing technology or trying to make things different. So imagine if we did this across the board. We do know that SPD is definitely a critical property that has research and development and product designers starting to think about this. And it could be as simple as asking questions. Consider the energy used to manufacture and use the product. Consider the raw materials and chemicals used. Consider closed looping. What's going to happen to this thing at the end of life? Should you even care about it? And if we want to compare and contrast, here we are 2013, and most of these design teams, I can tell you for sure, are saying, hey, can our standard vendors give us the parts and materials we need to make this product different? Now we want to start asking, can our material suppliers or people in our supply chain start helping us make these products more sustainable? Do they have sustainability programs? Have they done life cycle assessments on their raw materials or ingredients that we need? Let's pick another one. Right now the majority of packaging is disposable. In 2020, hopefully packaging can either be eliminated or minimized, or it can be designed to be recyclable. If anybody's on the phone that's in a packaging company, I'm not saying we want to eliminate your growth or your sales, but I think there's a lot of innovation available around packaging. So keep that in mind. Can packaging become compostable? Can it become usable in the product? I actually just read something online recently, and I'm sure many of you get bombarded by all these different emails, but I just read that there's somebody that figured out a way to take basically the hulls or the leaves off of cocoa plants and turn that into packaging. So I think, for anyone on here that's from a packaging company, huge opportunity for you to look at opportunities on changing the way we do business. And I know, and believe me, I know packaging is really complex. You're dealing with a lot of regulatory requirements, customer requirements. It's not that easy, but starting somewhere and getting the more people thinking about this is really important. Another big area that there's minimal focus on is what chemicals go into the materials and what are the impacts on people. We're starting to see much more of a driver on this right now, as we're seeing various companies wanting to know, how do you comply with REACH or ROS, or how are you complying with the Living Building Challenge? What about conflict minerals? I know that we've been actively developing questionnaires for a lot of our clients that go to their suppliers to ask them about the chemicals that are in their products. And we're even getting down to the CAS number, chemical abstract number, for a lot of our building products companies that are creating health product declarations and have to report material ingredients. Another thing I can guarantee is most product development teams don't even think about transportation. We just put it on a truck, or how do we get our raw materials? Another area that needs major focus. So what can we do? Let's start integrating SPD into new product development. Most organizations use some type of stage gate process for their new product development. So back here, stage 0, discovery, that's where they're starting to think about either innovating around an existing product, or marketing is going to come to them and say, hey, we got this idea. we want to change this product. Customers are starting to ask about it. We've done some market research. We think we have an opportunity. Here's where you need to start your sustainable product development, right here. And then you're going to integrate it through every stage of the process. So if you're not doing that, which most organizations aren't, you're going to lose a lot of opportunity on making these products better. And think about all the people involved in new product development. It's not just a bunch of R&D people sitting in a room. You're going to have, as you progress through the stage gate process, you're going to have operations people, people from packaging, customer service, marketing, finance, R&D and engineering, supply chain, sourcing. So these teams all need to be trained in what does it mean to make products more sustainable. And we've actually developed a bunch of tools. There's some that exist that anybody can grab onto, like, for example, Design for the Environment. I worked at EPA for 10 years, and DFE was definitely something that was heavily promoted within the agency. Some schools are adopting it. There are some companies adopting it, but Design for the Environment is a great opportunity to understand about designing products to reduce manufacturing impacts, designing packaging to reduce impacts, and then designing products for end-of-life recovery, reuse, recycling, all these different things. Also, other tools to think about is looking at substances of concern, considering chemicals right in the beginning, minimizing the use of chemicals you're going to have a problem with in certain countries or states or different areas. Designing out waste from the beginning. Waste, most of our manufacturing processes are very inefficient. I come from a background working in the electric utility industry, and I can tell you that just our energy production system for electricity is only about 30% efficient at the power plants on average. Once we add grid losses and distribution losses, by the time the electrons come into our buildings, they're down in the 24, 25, 28% efficiency range. So think about a manufacturing process where you're making a laptop or you're creating packaging or whatever you're doing in your business. A huge amount of material is lost in the manufacturing process, whether it's water or other resources or trim waste or whatever. Getting people to design that out early is important. Life cycle assessment, we all know, is a valuable tool, highly recommended. One thing we've actually created is what we call our Sustainable Product Development Checklist and Guidelines. We have a base program that we've developed for these. We are in process right now. Right now they're put together in a format that can be used by design teams as they go through the stage gate process. We're actually developing a system right now where these can be housed in the cloud and then utilized by different groups to really evaluate how they can integrate sustainability throughout the entire process without having to be experts in sustainability or life cycle assessment or whatever. Because if you remember this group of people, I can guarantee you many of these folks don't really want to know or care about LCA. They just need to know it exists. So creating a tool that helps foster thinking all through the process is something we've just done, and it's working out really great in many companies. In fact, I'll show you an example of a product where we used it. We also have to remember that there are major drivers for this. Walmart, I love talking about Walmart because back in 2010 when they sent out this supplier sustainability assessment, these 15 questions to the 100,000 suppliers around the world that are looking to provide really cheap and low-cost products, this was eye-opening for these people. It blew them away. I mean, we don't know about this stuff. We understand we have an energy bill, but we actually create greenhouse gases. Oh my gosh. Then, when they start asking them about the social aspects and if they have third-party certification and different things like that. This was a benchmarking exercise by Walmart to understand how their suppliers, what their understanding was, where they were in the process. We've done a number of supplier questionnaires with different companies we work with, and I can tell you it's all over the board. You're going to have some that are really top-notch, really aware, but a huge majority of them don't even understand any of this information. So what's happened now? Walmart's driving things. If we look at their big aspirational goals here to sell products that sustain people in the environment, how are they doing that? They're working in the Sustainability Consortium right now. They're evaluating various products, and they're coming up with sustainability criteria for these products, and looking to drive that down the supply chain. They're also training all their purchasing agents to know what that really means. And I'm not going to go through all these bullets here, but Walmart has plans. You know, right now they're looking at using the sustainability index as a basis to influence the design of various products. By 2017, they want to purchase, you know, products that are basically following the sustainability index around the world, and, you know, basically driving the need for companies to care about sustainable product design. And my theory is, you know, I don't think Walmart is doing this just to be a really good corporate citizen. They realize that if they want to have low-cost products for a long time, they can't control the cost of materials, but they can help control the cost a bit of these manufacturing operations by getting people to do it better. They can also understand the risk to them, you know, when they start looking at the materials in these products of what kind of risk can they have, and it's really going to raise a lot of awareness, and I expect we'll most likely see some type of label coming out of these companies. Just a few more slides and we'll start taking questions. A couple examples of sustainable product development where there was a major focus on reducing rare earth elements. Ford Motor Company developed a new lithium-ion battery which reduces the use of rare earth elements. Their batteries are lighter and more efficient, and I know there's a lot of innovation and technology going along with this, but not only did it reduce cost, but it improved performance, but it reduced the use of these rare earth elements by over 500,000 pounds a year. And if you're interested in this more, since this is being recorded, you can take a look at this article in more detail. Also, GE, since they're using nanomaterials and different rare earth elements in the turbines, in the wind turbines, you know, there's a major issue if these materials are not available. So some of the best performing magnets of these various turbines use rare earth elements, and GE's advanced designs really started looking at how they can reduce this. And you know, they know that this is a risk to their business. I mentioned earlier about some products that we worked on. We actually have worked with a building products company, and if we originally conducted a analysis of their product, we did a baseline LCA. We then looked at how could we make the product more sustainable and really work closely with their whole sustainable product development team. And they realized that if they could really increase recycled content and make some changes in their manufacturing operations, they could start to make the product greener and reduce impact. And as you can see by this spider graph, there has been some good reductions here. And what we also worked with this company on is creating a closed-loop process where they're able to take back siding and turn it back into siding. And this has just been a great success. And that SPD process that I mentioned earlier was the beginning of that. We do need to realize that understanding the materials that are in products, there are a lot of risks to companies for their long-term sustainability, and it is important to consider these resource limitations that could occur and what it could mean to the longevity and the prosperity and profitability of companies. So again, I'm probably preaching to the choir here, but you know, definitely changes need to be made. And I typically, you know, I ask people to really start using life cycle thinking, you know, for the products and materials you use and purchase. And the reason I say use and purchase is every one of us here has to think this way, but we really need to get the masses to start understanding how they select products can make a difference. We have huge purchasing power since, you know, the economy is pretty much driven by consumerism and buying products. So if we start to select products we buy, we start to select the companies we buy from, we can really do great things. And I'm a big fan, you know, in modern technology now we can send tweets or quick emails basically asking manufacturers to design and produce greener products. The more we do that, the more we can develop a system that's going to really improve operations here. So Jim, that's everything I wanted to run through. It looks like we've got about 15 or 20 minutes here to run through any questions.
Well, that's perfect. So I'll answer one of the questions I've already answered offline as well, but I'll answer that while you're getting a sip of water, Tad. So the question was in regards to whether they could get access to the presentation, and yes, you can. We'll be uploading the recorded version here to our website, so the earthshift.com website, so you'll be able to get access to this session and in all the sessions as we go through the series here. So you'll have access to that to be able to review not only the content of the slides, but also the discussion as well. So one question that was asked, very specific question in regards to your presentation here was, why was wood not one of the materials in the bees product list?
Oh, well, understand that what we did is we basically grabbed the products that were listed in bees, and when we put those graphs together at the time, there was no generic wood siding product listed in there. We could have grabbed maybe some information on standard trim or something, but we technically did have wood. We had cedar siding.
True.
So
yeah.
we did cover that, but we did not have like anything like T111 or some type of panel product, and that's just because the information does not exist in bees. And if you're not familiar with bees, product companies or associations need to submit the data, and they need to pay to have it reviewed and evaluated, critically reviewed, and then NIST, National Institute of Standards and Technology, will host that information in bees. So it's not easy. That information doesn't appear. It's got to be submitted by manufacturers or someone else.
Right. Sure. So that definitely adds to the challenges of it for sure. Another question was in regards to in order to increase the consciousness of SPD by the general public, how far will an eco-label work to kind of improve that consciousness?
Well, I definitely think that an eco logo would help. There's a lot of research going on right now by different groups that look at consumer purchasing habits, and we do know for a fact that based on surveys that have been done, a large majority of consumers or purchasers recognize, that if they see a mark or a logo on something, they trust that, and they will typically, that will promote them to buy the thing. But I do think that eco logos are really critical. I actually have another company called Green Circle Certified, and we actually have a multi-attribute label that we've created for products, and that not only identifies the sustainability of the product, but also the sustainable aspects of the company, so it shows operational information as well. And I do think that we have to evolve to that, but it's not just going to be that we start slapping these things on products. There's going to have to be a major education effort, and the good thing is younger generations of kids are starting to get this information. I actually just spoke on a panel last night at Villanova, and there was a whole bunch of young people in there, and many of them were really savvy. They kind of understood that they need to know what's in products and things like that, but the majority of people don't know that. So it's going to be up to the retailers, it's going to be up to the manufacturers, it's going to be up to schools and government and different folks to really get the word out that we have to start caring about this.
Absolutely. So another question, a little bit more broad here, is in regards to what industries or what segments of industries are you finding really are embracing the SPD process?
Well, there are a couple, and one of them, I spoke at another conference last weekend. I was out at Purdue at the Deming conference, and there was presentations there by both Patagonia and Subaru. And I think I was very impressed actually with Patagonia. They're doing a lot of activity around understanding the impacts of their products and minimizing that impact and trying to design products for a circular economy. Subaru is doing a great job of reducing the environmental impacts, but I still think there's a long way to go for many of the automotive manufacturers. Even though all the metals are heavily recyclable in automobiles, we still have opportunities within the interiors. The dashboards, the seats, the carpeting. A lot of those materials are not recoverable and end up. There's about 7 billion pounds of that auto fluff a year that goes to landfills right now. But I would say definitely some of the electronics companies are stepping up, like some of the apparel manufacturers like Patagonia. And I did mention earlier the lead-acid batteries are a perfect example of a closed-loop product that can be made back into itself many times. I've been to several of those plants when I worked at EPA. So, the fact, I think what we want to look for is companies that are actually at least stepping forward and running the LCAs to understand the impacts, and then starting to figure out how to integrate it into the new product development process. And that's my thought right there, and yeah. Just a huge opportunity with that right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Another question is, what is the sustainability index? Is this a Walmart-specific index or some kind of rating structure that covers a broader base of manufacturers or products?
Okay, that's a great question. I'm not a member of the Sustainability Consortium, but having talked with people at Walmart and having talked with different folks that are involved in that consortium, a lot of this information is not out to the public right now, but I do know for a fact that various companies, for example, we've done some work with some packaging companies, and there is a Walmart scorecard that they have to fill out, and a lot of it is based on life cycle impacts. And what that is Walmart, working in conjunction with the consortium, has done some life cycle assessment of various product categories and established, maybe what a baseline product would be. And then the folks that have to fill out these scorecards are basically required to compare their product to that baseline and just show where they stack up, and then submit that back to Walmart. The other thing with the index, I believe the index is also being designed for companies to report various sustainability attributes of their organization. For example, many of the companies that we've worked with that are suppliers to Walmart are required to report to the Carbon Disclosure Project and things like that. So again, these indexes are developing, and I do know from talking with the folks at Walmart that they're training their purchasing agents, the folks that are making, working with the suppliers, on what these things mean, how they're utilized, and that kind of thing. So that's the best information I have right now, and ideally, if you want to learn more about that, you either have to spend a large sum of money to become a member of the consortium, or you need to connect with somebody in that group until these things come out. And I don't think we're going to see them publicly released for a while.
Okay, well, that's great. I think that's a good place to kind of wrap it up at this point. I'm just going to take back control real quick from you, Tad, and put in a quick plug for our upcoming sessions. So the next session we have coming up on November 6th, really, really interesting discussion from Abdul Hadi from ExxonMobil, talking about olefins, speaking about plastics that Tad had spoke about earlier today. I think this is going to be a great session. So if you're interested, please register. Same process that you just followed for this. And once again, we'll be recording that as well. So thanks everyone for taking the time. We'll be posting this again actually on this website that you see here. And come back and feel free to download it or register for another one. Thank you very much.